Hello, welcome to my channel. The topic that I have chosen for discussion today is post nationalism. You may have been wondering, that is literary theory or critical theory today, all about posts. And there you have a reason. We have so many posts: post colonialism, post modernism, post feminism, post Marxism, post structuralism. In fact, these are used plurally also, not in as singular terms, just as post feminisms. We should say, because there are many kinds of post feminisms, not just one kind. Anyway, let's come to post nationalism. Post means after. Nationalism, of course, the very first important point that I would like to assert is that post nationalism should not be confused with anti nationalism, which is a different thing altogether. But post nationalism, by the very fact that it goes beyond nation, would espouse some of the values that critique the idea of nation, but it is not rejection of nation, in a violent way or something like that, but it is a movement beyond nations. We can say post nationalism is a quite recent phenomenon from one point of view, that is, say, from the 80s or 90s of the 20th century till now. But in a way, many previous organizations, the League of Nations, the United Nations, all this uh, signify the urge in human beings across the world to move beyond nationalism, or nationality rather, as the only organizing principle of human life. So today, in spite of post nationalism, what is our basic identity? It's a national identity, political nationhood. Now, national identity is based on a lot of homogenization, among other things. Either you belong to a nation which is linguistic, cultural, religious, or racial homogeneity, most of the people belong to that, or you belong to a nation where this homogeneity, these kinds of homogeneity are not there, but then some kind of a homogeneity has been brought by some political philosophy. It may be communist philosophy, it may be Gandhian philosophy, many kinds of. So nation always, or nations always, have their others: ethnic nations, cultural nations, or even political nations. If you are, a Pakistani, you must be suspicious about non-Pakistanis, though it is not written, but very implication. So the thinkers across the world, starting from Benedict Anderson, who said nations are, imagined communities, they found this kind of things to be problematic. Now, on the other side, have a look at these names: UNO, NATO, then GATT, General Agreements on Tariff and Trade, SARC, about this, or G20, these kinds of things. What do they signify? A constellation of more and more nations coming together to form a kind of federation whose values are different from individual nations, but then they would like to espouse what may be called the universal humanist values. So there have been universal declaration of human rights associated with the United Nations, and every nation today, almost every nation, has to honor this, at least superficially, if they do not do it actually. But in writing, few nations can say that we don't believe in universal declaration of human rights, and some seriously believe in it. So changes are taking place. In traditional nations, your rights and privileges are related to either the race, culture, or language, etc., that you belong, or the political philosophy that you espouse. But post nationalism talks about a kind of global humanist value where your rights and privileges are premised upon the very fact that you are a human being, not owing to the fact that you are born in a particular caste or a community or a language or a culture or a piece of land, or you espouse some political philosophy. Not that these things will ensure your human rights, but the very fact that you are a human being. So even we say criminals have assured human rights, because none is guilty until proved guilty. Everyone is innocent until proved guilty, for example. So universal human rights also they speak against death sentence. In a way, we can say that, again going back a little in history, earlier nations were based on the sovereignty of the monarchs, kings or the queens. Then gradually from the late 18th century and 19th century, when European nation states started coming into being, the national sovereignties were not monarch sovereignties, but people's sovereignties. Democracy. We the people of India. So in the constitution it is written, we are giving ourselves the constitution. So we are sovereign, but then within India, and we have to prioritize India at every point. Same with all nations. So there has been a shift from sovereignty based on monarchy to sovereignty based on the popular or the people. Popular here not as a pejorative adjective, but as the basic adjective from people to popular. So we can say that these are some of the aspects. And of course, very important facilitator of post-nationalism is not only the thinkers that I have responded to till now. I spoken about spoken about till now, but this globalization, the economic phenomenon, on which I have made separate video. Please check. There are flip sides of globalization also. In a way, globalization and post-nationalism are two sides of the same coin, or as we say in India, two sides of the same hand. So they are very much closely related. So that's why please try to understand post-nationalism from the point of view of globalization, which facilitates movement of skilled laborer, resources, intellectual property rights all over the world. And associated third important point is the digital world, which is a great facilitator. Another great facilitator of post-nationalism. Even the video that I am making, it will be uploaded on YouTube. You are already watching it on YouTube. It can be globally accessed by anyone from any place, all your Facebook, Twitter, etc. So even without going physically to any place, we can belong to every place. Many people in India open fake accounts, for example. So they are in India, but they write Switzerland, you can't find out. So fake and genuinity is another matter, but then digitalization or digitization has made it possible for people to become some kind of a global citizen. Today, in fact, it has so happened that our digital selves are more important than our individual selves. So I'm addressing to you all my students. So this digital mode, maybe for more than 3 months now, we haven't met face to face. This is intensified by corona, but even without corona also, this kind of phenomenon has been going on in the world. So we are all digitally present. So just like in Hinduism, there is a concept of avatar, the 10 avatars of Vishnu, 24 avatars of Vishnu, etc. Later avatars of Shiva also are added. So our different digital, editions, we can say, are like our avatars. Christianity also has the concept of avatar, incarnation, but they have only one, Jesus, God incarnate, basically. Anyway, in fact, in the app, chatting app or calling app, I think Imo, I don't use it. I had installed it once but removed. I think so far as I remember, your photo is called avatar there, to upload your avatar. So different kinds of Instagram, you know, decagram. Decagram is not there possibly. So many grams, so many books, Facebooks, this book, that book. So many people across the world coming together. WhatsApp call freely. You can call to any person, your friend in Russia, or your family in Spain or Barcelona. Your cousin is working there, or brother. So we often talk to our relatives in America and all, if we have, using WhatsApp, because it's free. It's actually not free. Finally, you end up paying for the internet in whichever way, but much cheaper than the so-called ISDs. So this is also another factor where, we cannot be any longer bound by the geographical walls of any particular nation, whether it is Russia or Canada or America or Pakistan or Bangladesh or India for that matter. More or less, all of us have become global citizens. At the same time, there are criticisms or flip sides, that this is more about the priority of the first world than the third world, etc. Those things you will find in my video on globalization. So please watch it along with that. And then for a critical overview of the concept of post-nationalism, please, though the term as such is not focused there, but please look up, if you can, the introduction at least of Benedict Anderson's Imagined Communities. So, and then there is also another book by Jürgen Habermas published in 2001 on post-nationalism, political essays. I will give the name and the link in the description if you want, and you can just Google, many things will be there. So please understand that today we can no longer afford to be bound by strict national boundaries, for better or worse. There is a debate. I think finally for the better if we negotiate things out. So that is the thing, post nationalism. Thank you.